It was a mild spring afternoon in Washington, D.C., promising nothing more dramatic than yet another polished political appearance. Inside the NBC studio, lights glowed softly, cameras silently rolled, and the anchor, Rachel Stanton, sat primly at the sleek glass desk. Today's subject, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, poised to make a surprise national media appearance, seemingly calm and collected as he prepared for what should have been a routine 30-minute segment. Anthony Wallace, the senior NBC political correspondent, paced behind the anchor desk, flipping through prepared notes, while the production team monitored audio levels and camera angles. Governor DeSantis, dressed in a meticulously tailored navy suit, entered with his trademark stern expression, one part practiced politician, one part deeply private strategist. He offered a curt nod to the crew before taking his seat opposite Rachel. His aloof demeanor gave off the feeling of a coiled spring, a man determined to dominate the conversation, yet calculated enough not to reveal his full pressure. The segment began civilly. "Governor DeSantis, thank you for joining us today," Rachel opened, her voice even and professional. "Thank you," he replied coolly, crossing one leg over the other, fingers interlaced on the desk. They exchanged pleasantries, discussing Florida's economic performance, recent school funding initiatives, and the state's response to environmental concerns. The atmosphere, for the first few minutes, remained under control. The crew held their breath, anticipating the transition from smooth political statements to the inevitable lightning rod controversies. As Rachel segued into a pointed question about the increasingly volatile debate over educational content in Florida's schools, particularly regarding gender and race curriculum, DeSantis's jaw tightened. His eyes flashed. The viewers shifted in their seat. Something was brewing. The conversation spun toward public protests raging in Jacksonville after a local school's curriculum was changed to remove certain historical texts. Parents and students alike took to the streets, demanding accountability. NBC had aired lengthy segments condemning the revisions. DeSantis had responded publicly, "These teachers have gone too far." Now facing Rachel's question, "Governor, do you believe that removing those texts is censoring history? Or is it a necessary step toward protecting children from what you've called divisive ideologies?" An electric pause crackled. DeSantis leaned forward, eyes narrowing, a moment that could either be deftly handled or spiral. "Rachel," he began, voice low and controlled, but laden with implications. "What's happening out there goes beyond mere preschool politics. It's about moral sanity. We're not talking about drone strikes on history. We're talking about ensuring our children learn what matters and don't suffer indoctrination in ideologies that split us." Rachel took a breath, trying to defuse rising tension. "Some critics say this is censorship, that your policies erase voices that deserve to be heard. How do you reconcile that with preserving academic integrity?" DeSantis hardened. "If academic integrity is using schools as ideological laboratories, I reject that premise." He exhaled sharply. "Frankly, if by asking questions about what belongs in core curriculum, I've caused some discomfort in certain academic circles, so be it. The era of open-ended ideological programming in schools is over." Rachel tried to interject, but he quickly spoke again, pressing the point, pausing for dramatic weight. The air crackled. In the control room, producers exchanged anxious glances. The audience, across televisions and streaming feeds, leaned in. Discussion boards lit up. Was this another pressure test in real time or an impending meltdown? Unbeknownst to them, a production assistant in the back had quietly shut off one camera. Wordlessly, something was about to explode. In this moment of rising tension, it was clear. What began as a standard interview had morphed into a high-stakes battle for narrative control. Every word would echo beyond the studio walls, fueling social media conspiracy and partisan debate. Action was about to come, and no one knew how it would end. Then it happened, a dangerous shift. The unconscious minute hand of contention turned, and the governor's guard broke. Rachel took a measured breath, eyes steady, voice firm. Governor, critics argue that your policies, especially the governor's new Teach the Flag First mandate, amount to ideological control. Hasn't your office decided for parents and children what and how to learn without input from educators or experts? It was a smooth burn, polite but direct. DeSantis's lips tightened. His knuckles whitened against the desk. The crew heard a sudden click. One camera shut down. The lights dimmed, but no announcement followed. A technical glitch? Tensions muttered beneath. The governor's expression hardened. "That's a ridiculous premise," he snapped. "Parents have input. They are the first line, not some academic elite deciding what's ideologically safe and what isn't. That's the crux." Rachel leaned in. "But when phrases like academic elite are used, aren't you fanning the flames of distrust in public education? Schools become battlefields rather than learning centers." DeSantis's nostrils flared. He pressed his palms into the desk. "And I say enough." His tone deepened, edged with anger. "Educators aren't the only stake in the game. Heroes, military families, local business owners, nurses, your everyday Americans, they deserve a say." He turned his gaze piercingly to Rachel. "You seem determined to punish Florida for standing up for its values." He paused. Venom laced his voice. "Why don't we talk about schools in San Francisco next time? Or do you save that for your evening show?" The studio shifted. Rachel squeezed her hands around her notes. "Governor, this is news," DeSantis roared. His fist slammed the desk. The click of camera one echoed through the tension-choked air. There was a stifled gasp from off-camera. Suddenly, audio feedback squealed, an audible shriek that reverberated through the studio. The monitors flickered. The governor rose, chair sliding. He strode out of the frame, face flushed and combat-ready. Rachel stared, eyes wide. She whispered, stunned. The signal cut. The studio went dark, or seemed to. Swarmed by producers, Rachel stared into the lens, her silence louder than any words. Viewers watching live across the country saw him simply walk away. Mid-interview, mid-sentence. The anchor said nothing. The void spoke. This was serious. Control room wheels spun. Feeds cut to an image of Washington's Capitol dome. An awkward canned feed. In the green room, staff buzzed with adrenaline. This was not scripted. On Twitter, hashtags like #DeSantis walk-off and #NBC just got down trended within minutes. Livestream viewers debated and dissected. Was it a staged meltdown or a sign of deep instability? Minutes later, without official word from the studio, Rachel reappeared. Jaw clenched, composure reassembled. She looked straight to camera, voice tight. "We apologize for this interruption. We will return to live programming shortly, and will continue seeking comment from Governor DeSantis." The network had gone dark for nearly 3 minutes, an eternity in broadcasts. The silence spoke volumes. That moment forever fractured the illusion of civility. The walkout rippled across the political ecosystem. Sharp partisan divides erupted. Were commentators hailing a hero taking a stand for parental rights? Or condemning a leader who couldn't even stay in front of a camera? Newsrooms exploded with speculation. Inside NBC, chaos unfolded. Producers scrambled to reconstruct the event. Playback confirmed what everyone saw. DeSantis stood, expression blazing, and walked straight out without warning, leaving a stunned anchor and crew behind. No official explanation. The raw footage generated virality. In the hours afterward, every major network replayed it, each clip magnifying the awkward walkout, the unsaid, the tension-laden pause. On CNN, the clip was described as a moment of pure political theater. MSNBC called it a shocking dereliction of political discourse. On Fox News, commentators argued DeSantis had exposed media bias and confronted an outspoken liberal anchor. The same footage, same images, two starkly different interpretations. Stats poured in, over 7 million views in 2 hours, spike in live debate chat rooms. Politicians smelled opportunity. President Biden's campaign released a statement. If you can't take tough questions from a friendly anchor, what will you do in a debate? Republican allies countered the media, they claimed, was stacked against him, provoking a preemptive walkout. Within Florida, grassroots activists seized the moment. On the Capitol steps, protesters carried signs reading, "Stay and debate," and "Press is an enemy." Opponents criticized DeSantis' temper and what they termed unpresidential theatrics. Supporters cheered him for refusing what they framed as intrusive conditioning. Public trust polls responded instantly. One mid-June survey registered a sharp spike in both approval and disapproval, an increasingly polarized electorate. Analysts said the walkout moment would define DeSantis' narrative for weeks, maybe the rest of his campaign. Behind the scenes, NBC strategized. This was not their first on-air controversy, but it was their most explosive. Internal memos circulated how to spin damage control. The injured anchor narrative would drive sympathy and reinforce a network's commitment to toughness. Rachel gave no interviews that day, but her producers leaked a statement. Rachel did nothing wrong. She asked fair and direct questions. It crafted heroism from silence. Late-night comedians feasted. Jokes flew on The Tonight Show and Late Night. He left like a toddler, having been asked to share crayons. Memes accused him of fleeing from accountability. Social media coined the phrase défiancé, ironically praising his defiance as courageous rather than cowardly. International media added their own spin. In London, The Guardian described it as emblematic of rising global political grandstanding. In Tokyo, NHK ran the clip without commentary, yet the silence spoke. Modern politics had reached a new threshold of spectacle. But through it all, through the memes, the hashtags, the press statements, one question emerged. What ignited his walking out? What crossed the line in that exchange about education? Even supporters wondered, was it the question or the tone? Was it irritation or strategy? And would he ever risk repeating it on stages yet bigger? As the fallout turned into a firestorm, one thing was clear. Nothing in modern political theater was predictable anymore. A walkout on live national television. That was new, and it had changed the game. Just 2 days after Governor Ron DeSantis' explosive walkout from the NBC interview, the media world was thrown into further disarray. While networks were still dissecting every frame of his sudden exit, something far more unexpected surfaced. An anonymous leak, a full, unedited, behind-the-scenes recording from the NBC studio 30 minutes before the interview aired. The footage was not from the regular studio feed. It was grainy, partially muted, and clearly recorded by someone on the inside. A watermark reading NBC Intel _34 blinked faintly in the corner. Within hours, the file had spread like wildfire on X, formerly Twitter, Reddit, and underground political forums. It revealed something shocking. In the footage, DeSantis and his campaign aide, a sharp-tongued consultant named Mark Kessler, were shown arguing bitterly in the green room moments before going on air. Their discussion was caught mid-sentence. Kessler, "You can't keep dodging these interviews like a bomb about to blow. If you explode again, you'll be labeled unstable. You want that in a presidential run?" DeSantis, "I'll walk if I smell a trap. NBC's not here to talk education. They want blood. I won't give them the spectacle unless I control it." Kessler, "You control nothing if you storm out like a high schooler." DeSantis, "Then maybe it's time they see what happens when I get pushed." The room went silent. The video then cut to an NBC producer entering the green room, whispering something inaudible. DeSantis stood, looked in the mirror, adjusted his lapel, and muttered, "Let's give them a moment they won't recover from." The implications were massive. This wasn't an impulsive walkout, it was premeditated. The footage revealed that the explosion was calculated political theater, orchestrated to rally support by presenting DeSantis as a man willing to break free of media traps and liberal interrogation. Rachel Stanton, it seemed, had no idea she was walking into a setup. The backlash hit immediately. Critics accused DeSantis of manipulating public trust. Columnists wrote searing op-eds. He weaponized outrage for ratings. Supporters, however, hailed it as next-level strategy, a masterclass in reverse media control. Rachel Stanton, long silent, finally released a video statement. Calm but visibly furious, she looked into the camera and spoke directly. "We were used, played like actors in someone else's drama. I asked real questions. He brought performance." Public sympathy shifted fast. Those who had previously seen Rachel as merely passive now recognized her as the victim of a calculated ambush. Overnight, hashtags changed tone, from DeSantis defiant to DeSantis staged it. To make matters worse, NBC began an internal investigation. How did the leak happen? Who inside the studio had access to that video? Suspicion circled everyone, from cameramen to segment producers. Rachel herself was briefly under review. Then came the next twist. A rogue anonymous account on X, operating under the name Media Truth Drop, claimed full responsibility for leaking the footage. In a cryptic post, they wrote, "You stage fake outrage to control the media? We'll control the truth." But it wasn't over. In the middle of the night, just 3 days after the original broadcast, a second video dropped. This one even more damning. The new footage hit harder than anyone could have expected. Released without warning, the second clip came not from NBC, but from an internal staffer of the DeSantis campaign. A whistleblower, tired of moral corruption at the highest level, anonymously shared the clip with multiple journalists and online platforms. In it, Mark Kessler is seen rehearsing lines with a DeSantis body double, a man uncannily similar in build and movement, who had clearly been used to practice the confrontation. The tape showed a bizarre scene. A replica of NBC's studio had been recreated in a rented Orlando warehouse. Kessler could be heard coaching the double. No, slam your hand down harder. Make it sound like you lost control. Then pivot, walk out. Don't hesitate. Leave them spinning. The most shocking moment came when Kessler looked directly into camera during rehearsal and muttered with a smirk, CNN will hate it, Fox will love it, but they'll all air it. This second tape, clearer, with audio and timestamps, confirmed that the entire outburst was a rehearsed piece of political theater. Not only had DeSantis staged it, he'd practiced it like a Broadway monologue. The impact was immediate and seismic. That morning, NBC launched a lawsuit against the DeSantis campaign, alleging manipulation of national airwaves, reputational damage, and broadcast interference. Their legal argument: DeSantis and his team intentionally misled a federal media platform for political gain, a potential ethics violation. Congressional leaders began calling for an inquiry. Senator Kravitz of New York issued a statement calling the event a dangerous abuse of public trust. Meanwhile, the Florida legislature issued its own demand, a special committee to investigate whether state funds were used to fund this private media warfare rehearsal. Public opinion nosedived. A flash YouGov poll showed a 19-point drop in DeSantis' favorability rating across party lines. Rachel Stanton, once a mere footnote in this drama, was suddenly its most respected figure. Her ratings soared, interviews poured in, but she refused all of them. She gave one short quote to The Atlantic. "What we witnessed wasn't a man breaking under pressure. It was a man selling us a breakdown, a performance designed to poison faith in public dialogue." The fallout crushed Kessler's career. By week's end, he had resigned, issued a defiant non-apology video, and promptly disappeared from the public eye. Rumors swirled that he had fled to Argentina. And DeSantis? He remained silent for 6 days. When he finally spoke during a town hall in Pensacola, he stood at a podium surrounded by angry protesters and muttered words that stunned the country. "If political theater is what it takes to wake this country up, then I'll take the hit. I don't regret what I did. I regret that it had to come to this." His voice cracked. Cameras zoomed in. For a fleeting moment, he looked exhausted, defeated. But then, unexpectedly, a woman from the back of the room shouted, "We wanted truth, not tricks." The audience erupted. Chants of "liar" drowned out the governor's closing statement. He was whisked off stage mid-boo. The man who walked out of an interview to look strong had now walked straight into history as a master manipulator of the truth. And perhaps the last politician to ever stage a meltdown on national TV and think it would win votes. Little did he know, the biggest walkout wasn't his. It was the American public walking away from him.